The story begins by revealing that in 1979, a massive space station suffered an accident in space, and some of its debris fell to Earth. According to NASA, all the objects that had fallen onto the planet had already been examined, a report that reassured everyone. After that, the story moves forward to 2007 in Sarah. We see a man who appears completely terrified, running to a telephone booth belonging to the American Intelligence Agency and quickly calling a biologist. He explains that he tried to contact NASA, but no one was willing to listen to him. According to him, strange chemical substances were being released from the space station that had crashed there 18 years earlier, causing illnesses and deaths among the local residents. Dr. Dealingware, Helen Martins, tries to continue the conversation, but suddenly the storm in Sarah grows stronger and the call is disconnected. 27 hours later, the scene returns to the same location, now with Helen arriving accompanied by her colleagues. They set out in search of the fragment of the space station, and during the journey, they find no one. Upon arriving at the site, they realize that the residents had tried to wash the entire area with water. That water accidentally entered a tank, activating a fungus that had remained dormant for a long time. As soon as it came into contact with the water, it began to multiply. Helen starts collecting a small sample of the fungus found there, but while doing so, part of the fungus spread across the ground, which she had not noticed, gets into her shoe. While collecting the sample in front of her, the fungus suddenly attacks her as if it were a living organism, forcing Helen to step back. Another colleague, who is on the roof at that moment, notices something very strange and immediately calls the other two to come up. There, they find a corpse with its body torn apart. All of its organs have rotted away, even the bones have deteriorated, and the brain has also ruptured. The group then looks at the roofs of the houses in the region and realizes that the bodies of all the residents were scattered there, all in the same state as the previous corpse. Seeing this, Helen understands that the fungus attacks people first, causing them such overwhelming panic that they climb onto the rooftops, where their bodies are ripped apart and they are killed. At that moment, the nearby corpse has the remainder of its skull burst open, and part of the fungus falls onto Helen, who immediately steps back. She collects a sample of the fungus and starts to leave. Then, the fungus trapped in her shoe pierces through the footwear, passes through her protective suit, and enters her body. As soon as the fungus penetrates her, her health rapidly deteriorates. Helen begins to feel an intense heat, has difficulty walking, and a horrible smell starts coming from her suit. When she begins to stagger, Robert's companion asks what is happening. Before Helen can explain, she collapses to the ground. Helen vomits a green liquid, and the fungus reaches her brain. She only repeats the word infect before quickly getting into a vehicle. Annie realizes that Helen has been attacked by the fungus and prepares to move against her, but Robert tries to stop her. Meanwhile, Helen starts the vehicle and tries to run them over. Annie, who was trying to stop her, approaches and attacks Helen, who attempts to seize her weapon. Once she gets hold of the gun, Helen intends to kill Annie and Robert, but suddenly regains consciousness. She realizes that she is no longer acting of her own free will. The fungus has taken control of her mind and is forcing her to do all of this. If she survived, the fungus would remain alive inside her, putting everyone in danger. Therefore, Helen tears open the air tube of her protective suit, ripping it apart, and dies shortly afterward. She does this so that the fungus will die with her as well. A few hours later, the army arrives at the same location, collects samples of the fungus, and destroys everything around it to prevent it from spreading any further. The sample taken by the military is stored in a maximum security facility where it remains forgotten. The years pass, and no one remembers that the fungus is still being stored there. The army leases the property, where an underground installation exists, while on the upper level, several companies establish their own storage facilities. These storage units are open to the public. People pay a small fee to store extra belongings and also leave valuable possessions there. Upon noticing this, Griffin, an employee at the facility, is consumed by greed and decides to rob the storage units. The problem is that the night shift does not belong to him, but to a young man named Travis. Griffin wants Travis to take part in the plan, but he refuses. Travis's weakness is that he is easily influenced by others. Because of this, Griffin quickly convinces him, and Travis agrees to unlock the door during the night. Meanwhile, an elderly woman arrives to check on her belongings. Travis accompanies her to the elevator. Along the way, he hears a strange warning sound but ignores it. Shortly afterward, while working, he hears the same sound again and calls his coworker Naomi. At first, Naomi has not heard anything, but shortly afterward, when the signal repeats, she hears it as well. After that, the scene shifts to Robert. He is the same man who appeared in the fungus scene at the beginning of the film. Now he is old and retired. Even so, he receives a call from the government and immediately uses his satellite phone to contact his former base. The call is answered by an officer named Abigail, who informs him that a temperature failure alert has appeared in a strange storage unit. Upon hearing this, Robert panics and complains that he had warned them many times that the unit needed constant inspections and repairs, but no one ever listened to him. Robert then asks the foreign military to send the necessary equipment and transportation so that he can personally go to the storage facility and inspect everything. Meanwhile, at the same storage unit, Travis and Naomi try to discover where the sound is coming from and realize that it is coming from behind a wall. Naomi, who is very drawn to this kind of mystery, decides to break through the wall and cross to the other side. They place a ladder so they can climb through. The two break through the fiber wall and try to look through a small hole. On the other side, there is a gigantic system installed. They widen the opening and enter, trying to understand what kind of system that was. There, they also find a map of the structure, and Travis realizes that the place was once a military storage facility. Naomi photographs the map and discovers that beneath that storage unit, there was not just one bunker, but several bunkers distributed across multiple levels. She wants to access all of them. Upon hearing this, Travis becomes irritated and storms out angrily, saying that he will not go. He states that he has always listened to everyone and, because of that, always ended up getting hurt, but this time he would not obey anyone. Naomi replies that she will go alone. She knew that, after that pressure, Travis would eventually go with her, and that is exactly what happens. The two go down by elevator and find a secret room that marked the beginning of the old military bunkers. As soon as they enter, some sirens go off, and they begin to observe the place. There, they find objects from 1979, such as old suits and old equipment, becoming impressed by everything. They also find a small entrance. When they open it, they discover that it leads to the lower level of the bunkers, about 500 feet below. They descend even further and find a secret room with a warning sign saying not to open it, but even so, they enter. Inside, they discover a chamber surrounded by cold water pipes, which were now leaking. They also see something strange. All the rats in the room were covered by a foul and disgusting fungus and had gone insane. Some were stuck to each other, and others even had their limbs intertwined. When one of the rats almost jumps at Travis, he steps back. Naomi looks inside the chamber and sees fungus everywhere. There was also fungus outside the door. She is about to touch it, but Travis immediately stops her. Naomi had only touched the door, and her hand began to burn as if she were touching an ember. When she tells Travis this, he understands that the place is dangerous and says that they need to get out of there immediately. Outside the storage unit, a man appears. He is Mike, Naomi's ex-husband, who had been calling her repeatedly. At that moment, he warns that he is outside the storage facility and asks to meet her. Mike seems terrified, as if he had committed a murder. He quickly opens the car door, and then it is revealed that he had accidentally run over a cat. However, the cat comes back to life. Its face is partially devoured by the fungus, and it prepares to attack Mike, who backs away horrified by its appearance. After that, the cat vomits fungus and climbs onto a tower where its entire body explodes, spreading blood and fungus. Part of the substance falls on Mike, who is also infected and begins to vomit the fungus almost at the same instant because it had already penetrated his body in less than a minute. Now, the fungus was stronger than before. In the place where the cat had vomited, there was a deer, and this animal also ends up infected. Meanwhile, the fungus completely takes over Mike's mind, ordering him to find his ex-wife, Naomi, again. Inside the facility, the infected deer operates the elevator by itself. Naomi and Travis, who had just left, are shocked and confused by the scene. Before that, they had been investigating the old military storage facility to understand what had happened there. The film then returns to the past and shows what happened in the last few hours. A cockroach had entered the chamber where the fungus was stored. The fungus first infected the insect and, when it left, a rat tried to catch it, becoming infected as well. Then, the rat contaminated other rats, while the cockroach escaped the street through the sewer. Mike's car was passing by at that moment. The cockroach was crushed under the vehicle, and the fungus passed through the tire, entering the car. Inside it was the dead cat that Mike had accidentally run over. Infected by the fungus, the animal came back to life, and everything else happened afterward. The narrative returns to the present. Travis and Naomi quickly run to the lobby, but discover that the infected deer had already entered there. Upon noticing their presence, the animal looks back and tries to vomit fungus onto the two of them. However, Travis pulls Naomi back, and luckily, they escape the substance. After that, the deer falls to the floor, writhes in pain, and has its body exploded. Parts of it get stuck to the wall. During this moment, Travis and Naomi come face to face with Mike, completely infected by the fungus, and now with the appearance of a zombie. He points a gun and, laughing, tells Naomi that she did not listen to him and that as punishment, he killed her cat. Mike laughs like a madman while saying disturbing things. At gunpoint, he orders the two of them to open their mouths because he wants to vomit inside them. In truth, it is not Mike who is speaking, but the fungus using his voice. Terrified, Naomi and Travis run to the storage area. Mike continues shooting at them, and the sound of the gunshots wakes the elderly lady who had been inside the same place since the beginning. Naomi and Travis enter a storage unit to escape Mike, but they cannot even close it completely before he arrives. They remain still and silent so that Mike does not find them. However, Travis accidentally steps on something, making noise. Mike notices their presence and tries to open the metal door, but the two force it down, cutting his hand. Desperate, Naomi calls the emergency number, and Abigail, who was somewhere else, hears the call. She quickly passes the information to Robert, who had just landed at the airport. An old friend of his had gone to pick him up and also needed to collect some belongings. For now, Abigail explains that someone from the storage unit is trying to contact emergency services and that she will connect the call so Robert can guide these people. Naomi and Robert speak afterward. Since Robert already knew the fungus, he asks Naomi several questions. She answers everything, and Robert explains that that fungus is extremely dangerous. It attacks the brain and transforms any person into a kind of zombie. For now, Robert asks them to stay calm and not do anything. He states that he is going to rescue them and warns that the most important thing is to avoid any contact with the fungus. At that moment, Travis faces another problem. His morning shift colleague, who had planned to rob the storage facility that night, arrives with his accomplices. The doors were already open. Upon entering, the young man is shocked to see the deer's body torn apart. They try to talk to Travis through the microphone, but since he does not answer, Griffin threatens to make him pay for having promised to help and not keeping his word. Then, he sends his men to a unit where expensive televisions had been stored that same morning, and they all begin stealing them. Meanwhile, Robert and Annie stop by her house to pick up some important items. There, someone approaches them at gunpoint, but soon reveals himself to be the son of Robert and Annie. Robert needs to leave for the mission, and Annie says that he must go alone because she is already old enough to deal with that. She hugs him and wishes him good luck. Robert receives another call from Abigail. She informs him that it is about to rain, leaving Robert extremely frightened. He explains that the fungus grows rapidly with water, and that in addition, he unexpectedly discovered that some people at the location have already been infected. Now, it is necessary to identify them by satellite, something easy to do because the infected present an extremely high temperature, reaching 1,000 degrees, to the point that the body is about to explode. Disobeying Robert's orders, Travis and Naomi leave the storage unit and see Mike, already transformed into a zombie, vomit the same fungus over all the thieves present, infecting them. Mike then notices the two of them and tries to run toward them. But before he gets close, the elderly lady shoots him, causing his body to explode like the other infected. Travis does not explain anything to the lady and tells her to go by the stairs because there was less danger there since the fungus had spread around the elevator. Then, Griffin confronts Travis, takes him by force, and demands that he open the unit where his other companions were locked inside. Travis did not want to open it because he knew Mike had vomited on them, infecting them, and that was why he had closed the unit. Griffin refuses to accept this and forces him to obey. Travis continues refusing to open the door under any circumstances, so Griffin shoots him before he can react. Wounded, Travis is forced to open the unit. At the right moment, Naomi appears to save him, armed with a fire extinguisher. She sprays smoke into Griffin's eyes and manages to escape with Travis. Griffin moves forward and opens the unit door on his own. When he sees his companions transformed into zombies, he falls into despair. Another accomplice, who was not yet infected, tries to flee but falls onto the fungus and is also contaminated. Griffin's companion, for whom he had great affection, watches everything. He tries to take her with him, but, in front of him, her head splits into 4 parts and pieces of her brain fall out, leaving Griffin terrified and making him flee. Meanwhile, Travis and Naomi manage to leave the building. They want to escape, but Robert stops them at gunpoint because he is now old and needs the two of them to do what he cannot. He gives them suits to protect them from the fungus and a bomb that must be installed near the container where the fungus was stored. Travis believed the explosion would destroy the entire area and kill many people, and for that reason he did not want to participate. Robert, however, explains that the explosion would be restricted to the underground area and would destroy only the fungus. He guides the two of them and states that if the bomb is not placed, the world could be dominated by zombies instead of humans again. Robert had already seen that with his own eyes. For that reason, Travis and Naomi agree to take part in the mission to save humanity. Since they had already seen the entire lower area, the mission did not seem impossible. As soon as the two enter, Robert closes all the doors to prevent any infected from getting out. After that, he punctures the tires of all the vehicles parked there so that even if some infected person remains outside the building, they will not be able to go very far. At that moment, the satellites monitor all of them and warn Robert that an infected person is approaching. Robert quickly shoots him, causing his body to explode. Soon after, Robert feels a strong pain in his back, falls to the ground, and cannot get up. In addition, the fungus spread across the torn-apart body of the infected person could reach him at any moment. For that reason, he shoots the nearby motorcycles and causes a fire, burning all the fungus. Meanwhile, Travis and Naomi reach the fungus chamber. Upon entering, they discover that the substance, previously limited to a few doors, had spread throughout the entire room. When they begin to arm the bomb, they realize that Robert had already activated the timer and only a few minutes remained until detonation. They might not be able to leave the facility in time. The fear of death awakens an almost superhuman energy in them, and the two run at an impressive speed. From the way they were moving forward, there was still hope of escaping before time ran out. However, something goes wrong with the timer, and the 3 or 4 minutes pass irregularly. At the same time, Travis and Naomi see Griffin's infected companion appear inside the facility, forcing them to change paths. In front of Griffin, his own zombie partner comes back to life and begins to speak. Griffin becomes so terrified that he shoots him, causing his body to explode again. Soon after, he sees Robert on the ground and threatens him by pointing his gun. However, Robert's ex-companion arrives at the location and shoots Griffin, killing him. Finally, Travis and Naomi manage to escape the building, and the first thing they do is rescue Robert. As Naomi, Travis, and Robert move forward, a huge explosion happens behind them, and they all escape without injuries. Abigail observes through the satellite that there are no more red signals. This means that the fungus threat is over, and that Robert fulfilled his mission until the end. In the next scene, Robert appears hospitalized, where Abigail goes to visit him. She thanks him for making her remember their first meeting. Meanwhile, Travis and Naomi appear as friends. Naomi also introduces him to her daughters, and thus, the film ends with everyone happy, moving forward into a new life.